Okay, so this is probably like the 7th time I've tried recording a video like this. I've kind of wanted to do an update on my life in terms of what's gone on. Um, I've been posting videos since probably about 2006 on YouTube and stuff. I've taken a long break and posted a few here and there. One was like a hire me video for Shopify and stuff. But recently I've kind of been offline, kind of just more stalking and reading than posting stuff because about a year ago I was diagnosed with Lyme disease, and it's been rough trying to figure out how to live life around that, as well as getting way worse than what I used to be. A little background, I was diagnosed with Lyme disease in, I believe, March of 2017. And I was actually infected in, I think, April or May of 2005. I don't remember the exact time, but that's somewhat close to the area. I remember it was around the time we got our hepatitis B shot, so that was anywhere between February and June of that year. I think I was wearing a sweater and not a winter coat, so I'm assuming it was in the spring/summer. But I remember my teachers came up to me and said, well, I'm assuming it was the summer or spring because there was bugs. Because I had mosquito bites on my arms, my teacher looked at me and said, "It looks like you have a really big bite that you're having a very bad allergic reaction to. Maybe we should send you home." So I was sent to the office, called my parents, and they took me to the doctor's office or the walk-in clinic, because I had a giant, well, if we look at my arm here, I had a mark that was pretty much from here to here and about almost the width of my arm, so it was a big circle around here, and a big red mark with a bite in the middle. And it was a mosquito bite that I got during recess or from the night before, and they took blood draws and thought that I had West Nile virus, which came back negative. And they said that I seemed fine, so I could just go home, and I must just be allergic to mosquitoes. Fast forward a couple months later, I've got neck stiffness, and like my ankles keep throwing themselves out, and everyone says it's probably just growing pains and you just slept funny, so just take it easy and call it a day. That was cool. Went into high school. 9th grade was fairly uneventful. There was a bit of bullying that we dealt with, and just the getting used to a whole new school again, because I'd switched from elementary school to high school. So starting as a 9th grader was a big change, but nothing out of the ordinary really that I could think of, until I think early 10th grade. We were doing a talent show for the school, and I started getting tremors in my legs and my arms. We went to the doctor, and they told me that, well, maybe you're just having too much caffeine, so you should cut that out. So at 16, I stopped drinking coffee and tea and energy drinks, and the tremors didn't go away. They told me that it was a side effect of caffeine, and it was that was what was making me shake so violently and so immensely, so bad that even with a friend of mine who was weighing somewhere in between 160 to 180 pounds was sitting on my lap, and they were shaking on my lap, and I'm not a very big person, so that was a little scary. Then later on, I was diagnosed with carpal tunnel, and about 3 years after, that was in 2013, so after I was finished high school and college, and I was starting working full-time at a factory. So when that happened, I spent about 8 months working in the warehouse portion, doing shipping and receiving, and then I switched over to the manufacturing production side of the company. And after about a year there, I took some time off because I had a baby, and then when I went back, I started doing my regular duties. And like in the course of my pregnancy and me coming back, I'd be put on light duties because they didn't want me to hurt myself, as opposed, like, in terms of losing the baby and all that type of stuff. So I wasn't allowed to lift heavy things. They put me mostly on stickers and pressing shampoo because I worked at Lush. So that was fine and dandy until it got to a point where it hurt for me to repeatedly do the same job over and over and over again, because they had put me on stickers for weeks at a time. Our typical job rotation was 5 days on each station, but because of my allergy to caffeine at the time, they couldn't put me in certain portions of the room, or I had to be moved to different portions of the factory because of what was being worked on in the room. So that wasn't fun. But I ended up going to a doctor and asking them about what I could do about carpal tunnel pain relief, because I had been told from a doctor in 2013 that I was that I had confirmed carpal tunnel on my left hand and borderline carpal tunnel on my right, which was, for me, I guess it was a relief at the time to finally have something that I could tell people in terms of a diagnosis, and everyone kind of understood the carpal tunnel aspect of it. They said, well, you know, if it hurts to do certain things over and over and over again, well, maybe you should just, you know, slow down. So that was something that I did for a bit, and I went to talk to the doctors. They recommended cortisone shots to help reduce some of the pain. So I opted to do cortisone in my right and left wrists and in my left shoulder, and that ended up being the worst idea of my entire life. I ended up not being able to use my hands for almost 2 weeks in November of 2016, and I couldn't lift my left arm up pretty much at all. I still have residual pain from those injections that come every now and again, which really sucks, but I didn't know what I had at that time. Had I known that I had Lyme disease and and the joint pain and the tremors and the memory loss and everything was stemming from that, I would have opted not to get the cortisone shots, which is a steroid, which, if you know anything about the Lyme disease community, you know that steroids and Lyme do not mix. It basically, if you have the dormant form of Lyme disease where it's kind of hidden and waiting for some sort of like catastrophic event in your life to happen. So this one waited for me to get cortisone shots, and then spiraled into the worst experience of my life. Basically, I haven't really gone more than 3 consecutive days without having some sort of pain. I've spent the last two weeks now with very bad chronic chest and like chest tightness and pain. I have pain in all of my joints. Recently, I just got braces for both my ankles and my knees. I have braces from my physiotherapist that I saw for 4 months that cost me, I think, almost $400 just for my wrists. I use kinesiology tape on my shoulders and whatever else hurts if I can do it, but most of the time it's not worth it for me to put it on, because a lot of the times it doesn't help. I've been given medical marijuana in order to try and combat some of the pain that I feel on a regular basis, but even that is not really a viable option. like, honestly, I think that the like, smoking pot has helped me with not being as bad as I should be at this point in my life, especially with 12 years with the same disease. And I've had pretty much the same symptoms for the last 13 years, and no one's really connected the dots until now. Mostly because I think it started out with little pains and stuff that I wouldn't really necessarily think was anything that should be spoken about or brought up to the attention of my parents or the doctors. I thought it was, you know, my wrists were hurting, and I thought I attributed it to knitting or crocheting or sewing or whatever I was doing, because I was so crafty and into everything. So there was points where I didn't stop doing things. Like, I would be knitting for 12, 14 hours a day, and it wouldn't bother me until I stopped, and then everything started hurting. But realistically, when you think about it, someone who is, especially when I was under the age of 20, I shouldn't be having that kind of pain. I shouldn't be having stress-related or like repetition-related injuries based on learning how to do something. You know what I mean? I think some of it was a little bit more worrying because when I started going to physiotherapy, I had a chiropractor and a physiotherapist, and an acupuncturist. So we did acupuncture for 30 minutes before I did my physiotherapy sessions, and that was kind of fun, but not really. Like, I built up some strength, but it ended up incapacitating me more than it helped. So I'd spend my Wednesdays and Fridays for the most part at home after my 2 hours of physiotherapy on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So it seemed like it was kind of counterintuitive. What else? I can't really remember what else there was to talk about. I think it's frustrating that a lot of the literature out there for Lyme disease states things like chronic Lyme doesn't exist, and if you have symptoms of Lyme disease after a certain amount of time, it is considered post-Lyme syndrome or something along those terms. But I personally wasn't ever diagnosed early on or treated for Lyme disease for when I was younger. Nobody knew about it. We thought doctors thought first I had West Nile, then they thought, oh, maybe she's just allergic to something, and that's a really big hive. Then they thought, well, she's just overusing her joints, and maybe she should just slow down. And then I was told that it was like growing pains, or they couldn't figure it out, or I had arthritis because it ran in the family. But you wouldn't think that those things would manifest so early. Or even, I think part of the other reason why I was worried so much is because I have an identical twin. So I know, based on the fact that she's able to do so many more things than I can, and she didn't have the bug bite that I did. Like, she goes to circus school classes, so she does like aerial silks and flips and random, I don't know what else she does, but she's able to get out there and do all of these physical things, and I'm kind of stuck at home crafting when I can. But if I'm crafting, I'm pretty much heavily medicated and not really able to do much else because I kind of turn into a potato. So, like, it's really a toss-up. Like, it's either I'm, like, you know, fully in my right state of mind on a regular basis and in so much pain that I can't even function, or I'm heavily medicated and not able to do anything. And that's part of the issue that I had with, part of the things I was fighting with my insurance company about for the longest time. They put me on an 8-month hold for benefits between me having short-term disability and getting approved for a long-term disability. that was not a fun 8 months. They told me that first I didn't qualify for short-term, but I was paid short-term anyway, and I'm like, but that's not my fault, that's yours. But okay. And then they said that they couldn't figure out if it was a pre-existing condition or not. But I argued the fact that it can't be a pre-existing condition if I didn't even know about it until 2017. So realistically, what are we gonna do? It's just not, it wasn't a fun adventure, I guess we can put it. The Lyme disease has kind of halted a lot of the things that I wanted to do in life. Like, I'm pretty sure if I didn't have as much pain as I did, I'd probably be, you know, still working at the factory, number one. Number two, I probably would be able to, like, further my business more than what I am doing. Like, the projects that I do are few and far between. I've been keeping a log so far. This is my log book, and these are my projects for the year. Some of them were like a 2-day project that was done with a machine, like my machine knitting stuff that I started in March. And that was a very, very small fraction of what I could do. My memory's gotten so bad. Whenever I talk to my doctors, they're like, so how was your week? And I'm like, I don't remember how everything was right now. But I decided as of the beginning of this year that I would start a pain and activity journal. This month I kind of went a little overboard. I decided not to do my months spread out like that anymore, but I wrote down all the days that I had bad times, and then I wrote a little monthly conclusion at the bottom of some of them. And just so I can be like, how many days did I have where I didn't have pain? Because it's gotten to a point where it's kind of like I need to count how many good days I have as opposed to how many bad days I have, because my bad days are far outweighing my good days. And in terms of January, I had 4 good and 26 bad. February, all bad. March, all bad. 2 days completely bedridden. Like April, all bad. May, 1 good, all rest bad. And then June, I've got pretty much every day so far of June that's got something. Right now I'm sitting here and it's only been 18 minutes and I can feel this shoulder, like it feels like it's kind of separating and tearing apart, but it doesn't look like it. Not at all. But go figure. It sucks when you're trying to sleep and trying to get comfortable, and I'm a side sleeper, but I can't do that anymore because lying on my shoulders or my hips hurts. Like I've lost so much weight because my appetite's gone basically in the negatives. Like if I'm not medicating, I'm not eating at all, which obviously is not a good thing, but what the fuck are you gonna do? What else? I forgot what I was going to talk about. I don't want to make this a super long video. The last couple times I tried to record this, it was like 45 minutes. And I don't want to do that to people. Let's just go through a rundown quickly of the last couple days. The last few days, if I've had a good day, which I try to wake up in the morning and go, hey, let's have a good day, but it doesn't always work. So yesterday I woke up, drove Mike to work, and he's my fiance. Then me and Harley, my daughter, went to school where her grandparents is, and we spent 2 hours there while she played, and I pretty much just stood and or sat in the corners or along the walls and just watched Harley play. Not a whole heck of a lot of strenuous activity going on there, but 2 hours and I was done. We went home at 11:30. We got there at like 9:30. We got home at for noon because it took me a little bit to walk. I went into the program yesterday wearing 2 ankle and 2 knee braces, plus having both my shoulders taped up, and wearing a sweater and jeans to try and cover some, if not all, of the tape and bandages. Oh, I also have my wrist covered too with my braces. But just so it wouldn't be so jarring to some of the little kids, because it's a class for kids under 6. I didn't really want to answer a bunch of questions, so I tried to keep most stuff covered. It sucks because those are the things that I can show the pain, but there's also the stuff that people don't see, like the ripping and the tearing that I feel through all my muscles, and the constant pulling at my shoulders, or the on and off clawing at my chest and my rib cage, and it feels like I'm being stabbed. And you wonder why there's no treatment for it, or why so many health officials try and sweep this under the rug, because there's a lot of people suffering from chronic Lyme disease, or Lyme disease in general, that aren't getting the treatment that they need. Like, I'm not getting any treatment whatsoever aside from pain management, and the pain management is literally just me getting a pot prescription and ordering it and smoking almost all day for pain relief, because I don't want to really be hooked to the pharmaceutical pills necessarily. Occasionally I've had Oxycontin, which is not fun because it just knocks me right out. I took 1 pill once, and I was out for 8 hours. And it was pretty much in 10 minutes and I was done. I don't like how I feel with the typical drugs that you get from the pharmacies and stuff. And there's not much that can help. I've tried naproxen on and off for 5 years. I used Aleve, and then they put me on prescription strength naproxen, which is terrible on your stomach, and it didn't do anything for me. They're like, it's an anti-inflammatory, it's great, and I'm like, it doesn't fucking help. It's cool. But yeah, that's my update for now. I'm gonna cut it short here so it doesn't go past the 25-minute mark. I don't want to bore you too much with some details, but I guess we'll see. If anybody is suffering like I am, let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, I will possibly update you guys later. We shall see. Thanks for watching, listening if you got to this point. Sorry if it was boring, but I felt like I needed to kind of talk about this stuff. And maybe do more vlogs on it in the future. We shall see. Bye.